These two men are considered the most likely to follow Donald Trump in leading the Republican Party. One could even succeed him in becoming president and define how the US deals with the world in the future. Vice President J.D. Vance, America's second in command, and Secretary of State Marco Rubio, the country's top diplomat. Both were chosen by Trump, but their worldviews are not the same as his, nor as each other's. What they believe could shape wars, alliances, and global stability. So what would it mean for the world if one of them became US president? I went to Ohio and Florida to speak with friends and neighbors to understand how their roots may shape their thinking. I spoke with experts and followed the men themselves across the United States and even to Germany. Let's start there at the Munich Security Conference. It's one of the world's key security meetings.
Well, thank you. And
in 2025, Vance shocked the audience with an aggressive culture war speech. At the core of it was this.
When I look at Europe today, it's sometimes not so clear what happened to some of the Cold War's winners. For Europe to step up in a big way to provide for its own defense, if you're running in fear of your own voters, there is nothing America can do for you.
A year later, Rubio spoke in the same room with a more welcome message.
We gather here today as members of a historic alliance, an alliance that saved and changed the world. For the United States and Europe, we belong together. We are part of one civilization, Western civilization. We are bound to one another by the deepest bonds that nations could share.
They were on the same stage, speaking for the same country, but they offered two different visions of America's role in the world. One looking in, one looking out. Vance grows up watching his hometown collapsing. Factories disappeared and with them jobs that had held families and the community together. Years later, he would write about that world.
J.D. Vance, author of Hillbilly Elegy, a memoir of family and culture in crisis.
At home instability is part of everyday life. A mother struggling with addiction, a childhood split between homes. It was a story of community decline and the personal struggle to survive.
I learned a lot about him from the book. I was very surprised.
Chris Combs went to the same high school as Vance. He's just 2 years older. His barbecue place is just a block away from Vance's grandmother's house.
He never showed that all that hurt and all that stuff he was going through and with his mom and stuff like that. Then he'd be at his grandparents often.
Jerry Dobbins is a neighbor who knew Vance's grandmother well and still lives in the neighborhood. He says everyone had problems, but
they had probably more than their fair share. I was laid off at that period of time, so yeah, if he saw it that way, and then I was laid off again for 3.5 years in the 90s.
Nancy Nix also grew up in Middletown.
It's just a nice little community who has had struggled, blue collar, the sellout of the working class.
She knew Vance's aunt and got to know Vance himself after he'd published his book. She became a big admirer and supporter.
We were at the ball fields that he was at, we were at the grocery store he was at, so you could see the problems that all the jobs had been shored out to China, a city that was once an all-American city and then had fallen on hard times.
That's why Vance's story resonates. It's a story many Americans feel they've lived themselves.
Seeing his neighbors and the neighborhoods decline because good-paying jobs were shipped overseas had a dramatic impact on the vice president's view of the world.
Henry Olsen is a political analyst at the Ethics and Public Policy Center, a conservative think tank in Washington. The system fails to deliver what it promised, and Vance experienced something similar while a soldier in Iraq.
And I think that fact has influenced the way he sees the rest of the world as well, which is that America got involved in a war to topple a dictator, toppled the dictator, but did not succeed in building a stable, robust, multi-ethnic democracy as had been promised.
What Vance experienced in Middletown, he came to see as something bigger, not just a town in decline, but a global system that was failing people like him. Here, he's speaking in March 2025.
When our factories disappear and the jobs in those factories go overseas,
American workers are faced not only with financial insecurity, they're also faced with a profound loss of personal and communal identity. The idea of globalization was that rich countries would move further up the value chain, but I think we got it wrong.
While Vance was living through the decline of America's Rust Belt, Marco Rubio's childhood was soaked in Miami's culture of exiles. His parents fled pre-revolutionary Cuba before he was born. For families like his, America was an escape from a country in collapse. Yolanda Aguilar, a close neighbor and family friend, remembers those early years.
I am a first-generation daughter of exiled families from Cuba. So I understand what our families went through, and you know, it's a difficult change, if you would. It's a total change of culture. His parents came from Cuba, they struggled, and I think he saw the struggles in those families.
And those experiences stay with you.
It doesn't matter what role, what position, what office you're elected to. At the end of the day, you take those values and your foundational values with you. And I think that's why he is who he is today.
But in places like Miami, that experience is not just personal.
When you come from a community like South Florida, which is a community not just of immigrants, but of political exiles, and so you tend to be very political.
Christian Camara has been Rubio's friend for 30 years and a political ally for much for that time.
So those exiles who lost that, they lost everything. They didn't lose a third world country and then came here. They lost a first world country. You're brought up knowing that there's good versus bad, and you have to have the moral clarity, I think, to identify bad.
He took a very clinical approach.
Dario Marino is professor of politics and international relations at Florida International University.
He looked at politics not so much as a policy debate, but he took more of why the Democrats are arguing this, what's the political benefit, why are the Republicans are. He looked at it more as strategic.
They taught together for 10 years until the beginning of 2024.
I would argue him as he has a general belief system that was shaped by the Cuban experience in Miami and by his parents.
Not just a strategy or ideology, but how he sees the world. For Rubio, this belief isn't just about managing threats. It's about confronting them and shaping the world beyond the United States. Here, he's speaking in 2015.
America plays a part on the world stage for which there is no understudy. When we fail to lead with strength and principle, there is no other country, friend or foe, who is willing or able to take our place. And the result is chaos.
So those are the very different roots of J.D. Vance and Marco Rubio. That's where they come from. One has a story of decline and the struggle to survive, the other of exile and a new beginning. And yet, they both identify many of the same problems. Let's hear again from political analyst Henry Olsen.
They see America as having been weakened through bad policy at home. They see an alliance structure that increasingly was insisting that America pay twice, pay once for defense and pay a second time in trade surpluses. And I think they both agree that any alliance system is not an alliance structure that works for America. And they are 100% aligned on that. Both have serious Catholic faith. So I think on matters of culture, you'll see similarities. Both believe that America's working class have been hurt by globalization and deindustrialization, so you'll see both of them focusing on that with their economic policies.
But there are significant differences in how they turn that thinking outwards to the rest of the world.
I think Secretary of State Rubio is much more focused internationally and more favorable towards a robust set of alliances. He won't want to go back to the old way where few allies spent sufficient amount on defense, but I think he's more interested in a robust set of alliances than the Vice President, who seems more interested in a set of allies, but not alliances, and giving more American freedom of action as opposed to cooperation with alliances.
It's difficult to clearly see how they might act as president. Right now, both have to shape their positions to fit that of their boss, President Donald Trump, but it is possible to find clues. Let's look at the cases of Ukraine and NATO. We are going to leave the situation in Iran. It's too fluid to pin down right now.
They both had to adopt the president's position with respect to Ukraine. I suspect that the Secretary of State, if he were president, would be more favorable to American involvement financially or support-wise with Ukraine than the Vice President, who said very recently that ending aid to Ukraine was one of his proudest moments as Vice President.
For Vance, it's about limits. For Rubio, it's about deterrence. You can see similar dividing lines over the question of America's attitude towards NATO.
I think the Vice President would be more interested in pushing the allies faster to defense capability than perhaps the Secretary. I think he would be more likely to think about America's flexibility with respect to the alliance. I think the Secretary would see, again, the difference between allies and alliance systems or alliances. I think they would both be supportive of NATO, both expect that the NATO remilitarization will happen. If it does not happen, then I think under either of them you would begin to see a withdrawal of American presence, not from the treaty, but militarily having troops located within Europe.
Both of these men would want to lead a powerful United States. There's no doubt about that. But the question is, how would they want to defend and preserve that power, and what would they do with it? Engage or pull back, shape the world or step away from it? They see the same threats, but they draw very different conclusions. If one of them becomes president, that choice of how to react would not only define the United States, it would shape the world.